We all know that sending our kid off to college is not cheap. You got all kinds of things you got to pay for. You got the classes, you got the books, you got the room, you got the meal plan, you got the parking pass, and the list just goes on and on. And we all want to set up our kids with the best chance of success, and we all want to send our kid off with a great laptop that's going to last them. And it seems like in the last decade, the MacBook or the MacBook Pro has been the go-to choice for sending a kid off to college. So in this video, I'm going to give you a couple different options to make sure that you're getting a laptop that's going to both fit their needs and fit your budget. So without any further delay, let's get right into this. Hey everybody, it's Chris from Family Geekery, and in this video we're going to be looking at different options of grabbing a back-to-school MacBook or MacBook Pro for our kids to go off to college. So we're going to break this up into a couple different categories. We're going to start off with just kind of the I'm willing to spend whatever it takes to give my kid the best laptop category, all the way down to I don't have a whole lot of money, but I still want to get something for my kid to use, and we're going to look at options in between. So starting off with kind of the default that I've seen some of my friends send their kids off. They go to the college orientation, and the college talks about, hey, here's our bookstore, and our bookstore has computer stuff, and you can buy the computer right from us, and we can fix it if they break it, and all that good stuff. So in that category, we're talking about a brand new computer. So we're talking about a brand new Apple MacBook of some sort. So we're going to look at those options first. And whether you buy it from the college, or you buy it from Best Buy, or you buy it right from Apple, that part is kind of up to you. Where do you feel most comfortable purchasing it from? What kind of plans do you want to buy for service? Because I know Apple's going to have an Apple Care option, and the college is probably going to have some kind of a, if we break it, you can fix it type option. So that's all kind of outside the scope of this video. We're going to be looking at the laptops themselves and find out what we need. So I'm here at the Apple website, and it's obviously back to school time. So we're going to have some deals going on the Apple website for MacBooks. Sometimes it's just money right off the product itself. Sometimes it's, hey, if you buy one of these, we give you a gift card, and then the kid can buy some headphones or whatever they need. So there's some deals to be found. I know Best Buy is running some back to school deals at the same time. So like I said, do some shopping. This video is going to show you maybe what category you want to be in. So let's go ahead and take a look right here at our different options for the MacBooks. And we've got, and the current laptops, we've got a couple different options. We got two different MacBook Airs, 13-inch. We got the new 15-inch MacBook Air that just came out. And then we've got three different MacBook Pros. We got the 13, the 14, and the 16. So right now I've just kind of got three basic categories here of brand new MacBooks: the 13-inch MacBook Air, the 13-inch MacBook Pro, and then the 14-inch MacBook Pro. Of course, if you go to the 16, the price is going to go up. Some of the features are going to be the same. So let's go ahead and just start talking about these right here. So the biggest thing that we want to look at first is the MacBook Air 13-inch M2 versus the MacBook Pro 13-inch M2. And then from there, if we need more power, that's the only reason you would go into this next category of the 14 and the 16-inch. Because these are going to be very similar in power. And then if you just need more and more, maybe if your kid's going into art or video or photography, then you'd be in this column here. But like I said, we're going to have lots of options. So let's look at these two first, this MacBook Air 13-inch M2 and this MacBook Pro 13-inch M2. So the good thing is if we look at the prices here, it's very easy to tell that the ballpark price is about $200 difference. So we got like a $1,099 over here on the MacBook Air, $1,299 on the MacBook Pro. Now from these, we do have those deals going on right now. So these may be $150 off or $200 off, and just look at the price difference of being ballpark $200 between the two models, depending on where you get them. So let's look at the differences between them. It makes it very easy to see here that we've got a 13-inch, 13.6-inch versus a 13.3-inch. That's not going to be a big difference. We got the same exact chip in it. That's what makes this so easy to compare now. They use Apple silicone chips, this M2 chip. is exactly the same. If we look right down this category, everything is exactly the same. So there is going to be one key difference that I'm going to explain, but for right now, just know, hey, it's 8 cores, 10 cores GPU, up to 24 gigs of memory, up to 2 terabytes of storage, and then one difference so far is the battery life. Since the MacBook Pro is a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier, it's got a little bit bigger battery in it, so it does have a tiny bit more battery life, but for the most part, everything else is the same so far. So let's talk about the key differences between these two. One is this Touch ID versus Touch Bar and Touch ID. So on the laptop itself, in the very top row where you have your function keys, on the MacBook Airs, it's just going to be physical function keys, F1, F2, F3. And then on the MacBook Pro, it's going to be a touch bar, kind of an LCD screen with the Touch ID integrated into that. So no big deal. I do honestly prefer the keys still to the touch bar. I've got a MacBook Pro with a touch bar, and I never use it. Never use it the way that they intend it. So it's kind of gimmicky, but it's not something that I would make a decision on. So let's scratch this. We got the 2-hour battery life. Like I said, there's one more key difference between these two. So between the Air and the Pro, the key difference that is kind of invisible to you and me right now is the fact that the MacBook Pro has a fan built in inside. So the MacBook Air itself uses all passive cooling, which means this M2 chip is rocking and rolling, and it's keeping itself cool by kind of limiting its own power. Whereas with the MacBook Pro, we want a tiny bit more power, so it's got a fan in there to keep that M2 chip cooler so that it can run a little bit faster. So overall, a tiny bit more performance from the MacBook Pro, and then the actual temperature of the machine is going to be a little bit lower. So this MacBook Air, if you start hitting it real heavy with some video editing and photo editing and maybe even throwing a game on there, then it's going to be a little warm on the lap. It's going to heat up. But the MacBook Pro's got a fan, so it's going to help out that cooling, and it's not going to thermal throttle that M2 processor. So that's the key differences between these two. So the bottom line between these two, if you're going to grab a brand new one, either one of these, just ask yourself, do you need that tiny bit of extra performance? If you do, then you need to start looking at the MacBook Pro and may even need to go into the next category over. If you don't need it, if the kid's just going to be doing basic email, Google Docs or Word documents, spreadsheets, social media, that kind of stuff, watching Netflix, then the MacBook Air is probably going to be plenty fine. The other difference between the two that we talked about was the weight difference. So if I'm going to throw this into a backpack every single day, maybe the couple extra ounces of weight difference is going to be worth it to go with an Air versus a Pro. So now that we know the differences between these two, let's jump into this third category here of looking at the 14-inch, and we can see it starts at $2,000. If we go into the 16-inch, it starts at $2,400. So these right here, not cheap at all, right? You're going to have more performance because this is going to be using the M2 Pro or the M2 Max. So we see these processors here. When we start scrolling down here, the M2 Pro and the M2 Max is going to be more cores on the CPU, more cores on the GPU, possibly more memory, but obviously you got to pay for that. Possibly more storage, but you got to pay for that. And then battery life, Touch ID, going to be same as the MacBook Airs. So really, it boils down to, do you need the power of the CPU and the GPU from this M2 Pro or M2 Max? If so, then you got to pony up the money for it. If not, then that M2 processor is just a fantastic processor. I've got one myself, and I use it daily, and it works great. So now that we've seen the differences in these brand new products, let's throw one more into the mix. And I'm going to throw them right here, and that's going to be the 15-inch MacBook Air that just came out. So if you liked everything about the 13-inch that we described, but you just want a little bit bigger screen, then that 15 inches is pretty awesome. So it's going to be, again, about the same price as that 13-inch Pro, but it's going to be a little bit bigger screen. So everything else is going to be basically the same processor, same memory, same storage, same battery life, just a bigger screen. So if it's something that's going to be on a desk and you're going to be using a lot and that extra screen size is going to be helpful, then maybe look at this 15-inch MacBook Air. But if you're going to be throwing this thing in a backpack and lugging it around all day, then maybe the 13-inch MacBook Air is, again, the way to go. All right, so hopefully that helped answer any questions you had about these brand new devices here. I know I've had a couple friends drop their kids off to school lately, and the people, the college, is kind of talking them into this category right here, this $2,499 laptop. And it just drives me crazy that there's a select few students that would need something like this, but the majority of them don't. And you're just throwing money away, really, because think about if you had a brand new McLaren race car and you had a Toyota Corolla and you were going down a road that had a speed limit of 45 miles every day. Why would you drive that McLaren up and down that road? You'd be better off driving saving your money and driving that Toyota Corolla up and down that 45-mile-per-hour road. So with that being said, if you have any questions about any of these models, feel free to drop them down in the comments below. I'll be happy to help you out with any questions that you have as best as I can. All right, while we're still on this page here, they are still offering the M1 MacBook Air. Now, I would not go out of my way right now to purchase one of these right from Apple or from Best Buy or something, because if we look, there's only about $100 difference between the two. Now, is there performance difference between the two? Yes, a little bit. We can see the 8-core is the same, but the 7-core GPU versus the 10-core GPU between the M1 and the M2, that's going to be a little bit different. Don't worry too much about these maximum unified memories because you're probably not going to be buying the 16 or the 24 gigs. You're probably going to have the 8, and we'll talk about our storage options and our memory options here in a little bit. But why I even bring up this M1 is you can find these used. So there may be somebody that bought one that is already upgraded to the M2, or they bought it and they didn't use it very much. So if that's the case, I would check Facebook Marketplace, check your local pawn shops, check Craigslist. You may be able to find one of these. I know I've found this M1 13-inch MacBook Air in the $500 to $600 range. So if that's the case, is it worth a $400 or $500 difference to get the M1 versus the M2? In my opinion, yes. Go ahead and get the cheaper one, and that's going to let you maybe 2 years down the road find a used M2, and the combination that you pay between the two is going to be about the same as if you just bought this in the first place. So just wanted to give you that one more option there, kind of that buy last year's model option of getting a 13-inch M1 MacBook Air, and just keep your eye out for one. If you are dead set, want to get one brand new from Apple or from Best Buy with a warranty and all that stuff, then forget I even mentioned that one. Just go straight to the M2. Don't buy the M1 brand new from them unless they really discount it. Sometimes Best Buy will really discount their M1s or their last year models. But unless it's way down there, like I said, $600, I would just go ahead and get the M2 if you need that brand new one with the warranty, or save your money and find one used. All right, so far we've kind of discussed the options of having a $2,000 to $3,000 laptop in this category, the 14 or the 16-inch MacBook Pro, to the $1,000 to $1,200 or $900 to $1,200 basically for the 13-inch MacBook Air or the 13-inch MacBook Pro and the M2, and then all the way down to the, hey, I'm going to get lucky and find a used M1 for, $500-600. So that's three pretty much different, very diverse categories, and we've got a couple more categories to fall into. But before we go there, I want to talk about your options on these newer style MacBooks, the M1 and the M2. Let's talk about the options for both memory and storage. So the thing about this unified memory is you've got a certain amount of memory that's installed in your computer, and you've probably heard that referred to as RAM. And that unified memory means it's going to be used both for the CPU and for the GPU. So it's going to kind of share it. When it needs more graphics processing, it's going to grab some more of the memory and use it in the GPU. When it needs more number crunching type stuff, it's going to grab that memory and send it to the CPU. And it's very efficient in the way it does that. Now the baseline for all of these is 8 gigabytes. And 8 gigabytes on an M2 chip, I'm going to tell you, is sufficient. It's not awesome, it's not perfect, it's not great, but it is sufficient. Again, if your use case is going to be Google Docs, Netflix, playing some Spotify, maybe playing a couple games, then that 8 gigabytes is going to be more than enough. If you're going to be getting into editing 4K videos, then yes, you'll want to get at least the 16 gigs. Now the price difference between these is going to jump up quite a bit. If I go into this, let's look in this MacBook Air 13-inch M2 and go into the buy option here and see what my options are. So the only option difference between these two prices here is the storage. We're going to talk about that in a second. So the same exact unified memory, 8 gigabytes, and I'm not seeing an option to upgrade that. So like I said, the 8 gigabytes is going to be sufficient. If you're looking at this style, this MacBook Air style of laptop, then that 8 gigabytes is probably going to be sufficient. Now the difference between these two storages, to go from 256 gigabytes up to 512, basically doubling your storage for an extra $300, I would say do not do that. That is not worth it. All these computers have Thunderbolt 4. You can see that Thunderbolt USB 4 ports on it. You can grab a 1 terabyte external SSD that's not very big, portable enough to keep in the backpack. Plug it in when you need it. That's going to add a terabyte of storage for under $100. You can find them for as cheap as $50, and that's not going to go from 256 to 512. That's going to go from 256 to 1.2 terabytes. So a lot more for a lot cheaper. So don't waste the money on the 512 gigabytes. If you're going to go with this 13-inch, just stick with the base model. That's the one that you're going to find the best deals on anyways. That's the one that you're going to find at Best Buy on sale for back to school. So go ahead and stick with that one and grab yourself an SSD down the road, an external SSD, if you need one. So let's go ahead and go back and look at that MacBook Pro. And see what the purchase options are on the 13-inch. And again, we've got looks like $200 difference here between the 256 and 512. And I'm not seeing an option on more memory, despite the fact that they say that there's more memory. Maybe we need to go into one of these. There we go. And now we can see when we go into this category here. So we're looking at the MacBook Pro. So this is the one that maybe you do want some more memory in. And now we can see to go from the 8 gigs up to 16 gigs is $180. Up to 24 is $360. So I would say this 24, that's an automatic no. The 16 for $180, it seems like a lot, but it's really the only way you can do it. You can't crack this thing open yourself and throw in more memory. If you want more memory down the road, it can't be upgraded. So if you need that 16 gigs, you got to buy it up front. And you got to pay the piper. So $180, if that 16 gig is worth it to you, then that's what you're going to spend. If it's not, stick with the 8 gigs. And now if we go back and we look at maybe the 14-inch, which is the next step up, now we're getting into the M2 Pro. So we've got the options here of 2 different M2 Pros based on the size of the storage, and then the M2 Max. So the M2 Max is going to have a much bigger GPU and the option for a lot more unified memory to start with. So if we look at these prices, they are going up $18.49, up to $22.99, up to $27.99, and that's without any upgrades. So let's grab even this M2 Pro here. This is the 14-inch M2 Pro, and see what our options for that are. And we're starting here with the M2 Pro with 10 cores of CPU, 16 cores GPU, and 16 cores of neural engine. And the next step up is the M2 with 12 core CPU, 19 core GPU, and 16 core neural engine. So a couple more cores of CPU, a couple more cores of GPU, and that's going to cost you $270. This is even before we start jumping up in the memory. Now the good thing is this one starts at 16, and to get to that 32 is going to be $360. So you would have to know for sure that you need this 32 gigs to make that kind of a choice of spending $360 extra. But like I said, there's people that need that, and I would say for most cases, a kid going off to college probably does not. All right, so we talked about the different options for these brand new computers. We talked about the storage options. Don't pay for the storage from Apple. Get yourself an external SSD. Plugging that thing into that USB-C port it seems almost as fast as an internal drive anyways. They are so darn fast anymore. And then we talked about your memory options. If you're going to be in the 13-inch M1 or M2 MacBook Air, probably just stick with the 8 gigs. If you're going to be in one of the MacBook Pros, then you got to decide if it's worth it to spend that extra money for that 16 gigs or 32 gigs of RAM. All right, so the next thing I'm going to talk about is the next category down from all these. If you really want to save some money, if you really want to start off cheaper, then you want to look at older models. So we're going to look at something that's older than these M1, M2 models. So they're going to be Intel models. And if we just go to eBay here, and I just searched simply for 2015 MacBook Pro. So I'm going to look at a couple different options here. Now 2015 is important because as of the time of this recording, you can update these 2015 models all the way up to the newest OS. So you have all the features, latest Mac OS features, you get all the security fixes, that kind of stuff. So that is kind of important. That's not to say that anything older than 2015 isn't worth anything. In fact, I've got 2011 models and 2012 models that I still use. If you search through my channel, you'll see a lot of videos about me upgrading those older ones and making perfectly good computers out of really old, cheap MacBooks. So check that out. But I just wanted to do kind of limit the search to this 2015 MacBook Pro. So in 2015, we had two basic choices. You got the 15-inch and the 13-inch. The 15-inch is an awesome machine that is still plenty powerful for most users. Now, the 15-inch is not going to be the one that you want to throw into a backpack, probably, unless your student needs that extra power. Because these things, you can get 16 gigs of RAM, a i7 processor, 1 terabyte SSD, all this together. And this is just the first one I looked at here, $549. So cheaper than that M1 Air. And on paper, the M1 processor is probably faster processor than this. But overall laptop, this is a much better laptop because the 15-inch has got a bigger screen, it's got more memory, it's got a bigger hard drive, and it's just a beast. I love the 2015 15-inch MacBooks. So if we go from that category down to the 13-inch, so here's a 13-inch right here. Let's look at this one, 13-inch, 2015. It's also got the i7 processor, 16 gigs of RAM. It's only got 256 gigabyte of SSD, but actually you can upgrade this yourself in this model. It's not too hard. I've probably got a video about it on my channel. And all this right here, $349. I would say if you're looking to save money, then this is probably the way to go. $349, you could buy 3 of these, and for the same price as your brand new M2, M2 Air or M2 Pro, and you send your kid off to college with one of them. If they destroy it, if they break it, if they lose it, if it gets stolen, you just hand them the second one. You can have a different one each year for the first 3 years if they wanted to. But like I said, still plenty of power. It's not going to be the newest, fastest, lightest MacBook out there, but the 13-inch 2015 is still a viable laptop. In fact, I love the keyboard on this better than the keyboard on the newer models myself. That's just a personal preference. But if they're going to be doing a lot of typing, they may make that kind of judgment also once they start using different types of keyboards. So I just wanted to give you a couple options. And from here, you can even go further down the list. Like I said, a 2012 My daughter just graduated college, and she used a 2012 the whole time and never complained one bit. She just graduated last year with that 2012. Never complained one bit about needing a computer that had more whatever, more RAM, more processor or anything. So you can get into the 2012 MacBook Pros for like $200 if you find one from a local person or a pawn shop or something like that. So keep your eyes out for that. If you just want to absolutely save money up front, then that's the way to go. Now, if you do go all the way back to 2012, you're not going to have the newest Mac OS, but you're still going to have a version of Mac OS that has most of the features and all the security updates. So don't be too concerned about that right out the gate. Worry about that, 2 or 3 years down the road once those updates stop happening. But again, if you're spending $200 on a laptop, I would bet money that 2 years from now, you'd be able to spend another $200 on a laptop and get, a couple year newer one anyways. So that's not a bad way to go. All right, so we talked about a bunch of different options here, all the way from the brand new, most expensive MacBook that you can buy, all the way down to saving a bunch of money and getting one used, getting an older one, getting one refurbished, getting one off of eBay or off a local seller, and then of course anywhere in between. Just remember that these are my opinions. Just trying to help you guys out. I know there's a lot of opinions, especially about Mac products, and listen to all of them, right? I'm not the only person that you need to listen to, but I've been buying and selling MacBooks for a lot of years. I know how they perform. I know how they hold up, and I'm happy to help people make these types of decisions. So again, by all means, throw something down in the comments. Hey Chris, I found such and such on Craigslist. Is this a good deal? Throw it down there. I'll look at it and I'll give you my opinion. But I just wanted to help educate everybody out there that's sending their kids off to college on what they need to do, because like I said, I've had several friends come back from an orientation and say, man, we just spent $3,000 on a MacBook Pro for our kid. And I start asking the question, why? Why did you spend that much? Oh, well, because they said that that's the model that they needed for, their program. And I'm here to tell you that there's very little kids that need that $3,000 laptop. So I just wanted to try to help everybody be a little bit more educated about what their options are so that they can make the best decision, the smartest decision for them. So I think that's going to wrap it up for this video. Like I said, throw all the questions you got down in the comments below. I'll be happy to help out. I hope this video was somewhat helpful for you. If it was, I do appreciate that thumbs up. Give me a like. And if you want to see more stuff like this, I'm going to have more MacBook videos coming up here soon. More buyer's guides on specific models. And go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss those. But thank you so much for watching this video. Good luck to your kids going off to college. I wish them the best. And until next time, peace out and geek out.